just have a little walk up and down, you know. Beautiful, beautiful. I knew you'd be the right person. Well, as you can see, it's a very sparkly jacket. Thank you very much, Wendy. It's something I saw, I wanted, and I bought, and hung in my wardrobe many years ago. It was only later, after I'd bought it, that I wondered, when am I going to wear it? Where am I going to wear it? And I have worn it a couple of times, but it isn't the sort of thing you wear to the cinema or the theatre, unless, of course, you're playing a part in the pantomime. I've worn it once to a very smart restaurant, a private restaurant, you know, that little black dress, black tie evening. And I think I've worn it once for a black tie dinner on a cruise where I literally outshone everybody else in the room. But it has sat in the wardrobe for a long time now. So why did I buy it? Well, it's Twiggy's fault. Twiggy brought this label out, and if you look inside, you'll see the Twiggy label on there. She launched the label, and this was part of it. And I thought I was Twiggy, and I never was. And there's nothing wrong with that, but as I've had it several years, it's not been a good purchase because I haven't worn it very much. And as it's remained in the wardrobe, it hasn't been much use to anybody else either. So it's a great shame because it's been a poor purchase. It's just sat in the wardrobe. It might have brought pleasure to somebody else. And that's, I think, is the real issue. It's possession I don't need or want or enjoy. So why am I still holding on to it? And it's probably going to end up in the pantomime box here at Christchurch. So what we have and what we need and what we desire and how we live are questions that arise today from our reading. And I was reminded of a visitor we had a few years ago. Father Faston was a Zambian priest living with us for about 3 months. He was here under a USPG bursary, studying, preparing to be a bishop at some point following his return to Zambia. And he was with us over Christmas, and he danced with joy when the snow came down. He gave us a new view of snow. We took him to Harry Ramsden's for a fish and chip supper, but he was very shocked when the meal was delivered. Fish and chips and bread and butter served together. And in his country that was unheard of. To serve bread alongside of a meal. Bread was a meal in Zambia. Nothing was wasted at his home. There wasn't an excess of food. And that's something we rather take for granted. And when his wife came over in the January, she arrived to the snow in a cotton dress and flip-flops. She didn't have an extensive wardrobe to interchange with. She certainly didn't have the type of clothes that she needed for a winter in North Durham. And ringing around the parish, I managed to contact people who were about her size, it was quite large, and who were willing to help dress her for the snow. And in one house, she was absolutely amazed at the lady's very extensive wardrobe. And she was moved by the generosity of sharing with her. And the next day I took her shopping for essentials. And again, she was amazed at the range of goods in the shops. And she asked me to buy her some of the things that she saw. And that presented a bit of a dilemma. Did she need them, or was it a case of being envious and wanting something of what we all seem to have beyond essentials? And in the end, I think we compromised. And Faston and Edith were invited to many homes during their stay with us. And one of the things Edith said before leaving us was that everyone seemed to have so much. Homes had ornaments, lots of ornaments. People had choices of food, clothes to wear. Shops had a range of unessential items. And yes, she said, she was envious. Well, they returned to Zambia in March with many gifts. A sewing machine that was in good working order, but which had been sitting in somebody's cupboard. So Edith took it home, and she was going to train women how to use it so they could form a collective and actually have some independence there. She took back a wedding dress for her daughter, from someone who previously had a bridal shop. And in this bridal shop, there was lots of dresses, you can imagine. Well, this dress had been sitting in a cupboard ever since the shop closed. Somebody else was going to get a pleasure and enjoyment and use of it. A chasuble was made for Father Faston, a splendid affair, rather like Joseph's coat of many colours. And there were lots of other gifts. And I asked them how they would actually get them home, but they did. It was an opportunity we had as a parish to share in a very positive way. Certainly in our conversations with both Pastor and Edith, we learned to see what we had with fresh eyes. And we vicars learned that in Zambia, Pastor travelled many, many miles across his parish, couldn't get home each evening when he was visiting, far greater distances than any of our United Benefices cover. Congregations walked many, many miles to get to church and stayed for several hours. God was the focal point of their lives and at the heart of their lives. In our gospel reading today, we're reminded that there is nothing wrong with possessions as long as they don't become the God that we worship. Jesus' parable is not about need, it's about greed. We all need some money, we all need some possessions, we need to provide food, shelter and care for ourselves and for our family, and to enjoy life. Life is a gift, so we're meant to enjoy it. It's how we measure the need and where the line crosses into greed. So wealth is not a vice. We need shared wealth in order to eradicate poverty, so it has its place in society. It can do much good used in the right way. And a few weeks ago we saw that when the Good Samaritan used his own wealth to care for the man who was robbed, ensuring he was looked after until he recovered. Wealth looking after those in need. But it's the love of money that is a vice. And if you think about it, it's at the heart of much evil in the world. Today's gospel is part of a longer discourse as Jesus deals with the difficulties that possessions can cause for his disciples. They are going to be given a great commission to go and baptize all nations, teaching all that Jesus had taught them. He goes on to tell them not to worry about possessions. He doesn't tell them not to care for their families, but he makes a point of not holding on to possessions they don't need and those things which will be an encumbrance in their mission. It's no easy task they're being given, and they need to focus on God as they follow the way of Christ. And he tells them, sell your surplus possessions, the things that you don't need, give alms to the poor, and then they will be rich in the sight of God. Some more instruction. Don't hoard the income you receive from your sale. Use it for the good of people in need today. Well, how does that translate today? It is a fact that people do crave a level of security. In biblical times, when famine was a recurrent threat, they sought security by stockpiling grain. In our times, it's stockpiling money and possessions, and at times of particular concern, people stockpile food. Somehow they give us an illusion of security. And people seek self-worth in possessions. And we live in a society where people are estimated by what they have. To have a lot is to be something. To have nothing is to be nothing. If we have all we need, why do we want more? Gandhi was one of the greatest men of the 20th century, yet he lived in a simple hut made of wood and mud. His possessions were minimal. Mother Teresa lived as a religious all her life, so owned nothing in her own right. Neither of them was perfect. What they did have, however, was inner strength, which enabled them to focus on God and to make a positive difference to people's lives. And Jesus was very clear. Rather than storing up treasure, we should seek to make ourselves rich in the sight of God. And that's achieved not by what we've done, not by what we have or don't have, or even what we've done, but what we are. Jesus was clear about the role of the disciples. They had by their lives to reflect that life and teaching of Jesus. And the focus of the early church was simply worship. Worship, God at the centre of their lives, and that shaped the early community. Well, in this very rich country, we have food banks. We have increasing numbers of people living on the streets. We have children living in very real poverty, which affects their physical health, their mental health, their education, and their choices and opportunities for the future. And people are generous in their giving and response. It doesn't actually address the root cause of the need. It's a political answer, and it might be seen as radical, but then Jesus was political, and he was a radical, but his party was the kingdom of God. Jesus calls us to be disciples and to live as such. The kingdom of heaven is inaugurated in us. By our lives shall we be known. And he points us to a way of life. He doesn't judge the brother who has the wealth. That brother will also have inherited responsibility for caring for the whole family. Instead, he focuses on the core of the dispute, and that's greed for possessions. The parable stresses the foolishness of depending on material things for one's security rather than looking to God. In his search for security and happiness in this life, the rich man forgets God, forgets eternal life, forgets his obligations to the poor. He's a fool because he's not learned how to use wisely the wealth that he already has. And Jesus never judges people because they are wealthy. He doesn't say we cannot enjoy life, and he doesn't say we cannot enjoy having choices. He simply reminds us that as children of God, we are called by name, each and every one of us, to follow a way of life that is not centred on possessions. And therein is life in all its fullness. So we can run around and make lots and lots of money. It doesn't actually give us security, not real security. It doesn't give us hope for the future. Food for thought. I came across a verse that perhaps draws our thoughts together. I asked for health, that I might do great things. I was given infirmity, that I might do greater things. I asked for riches, that I might be happy. I was given poverty, that I might be wise. I asked for power, that I might have the praise of those about me. I was given weakness, that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things, that I might enjoy life. I was given life, that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything that I hoped for. Almost despite myself, unspoken prayers were answered, and I am most richly blessed. Amen.